lose yourself in a relationship because you're going to miss you. At one point in time, you're going to go, wow, what happened to me? Sometimes you just need to be by yourself to collect your thoughts. It's an overwhelming thing, especially if the other person is making you feel responsible for their happiness. That's a toxic relationship if you have to be responsible for somebody else's happiness.
Oftentimes what happens if you found yourself being responsible or feeling responsible for your man's happiness, you've actually moved into the masculine mothering role where you're trying to anticipate his needs, you're trying to please him, you're trying to make him happy so that he likes and loves you. You reverse the polarity. Now he can't devote himself to you. He can't be inspired into the masculine, chasing, leading, providing, giving role because you've taken that role and you've not allowed him to feel your feminine vulnerability, your feminine heart, asking him for help so that he can actually provide those things. So it's something very important to watch out for.
Quote recently that said, you do not attract toxic people. Toxic people go to everyone. You are just allowing them to stay, and that's the issue. That is so true.
If you found that you are attracting toxic people into your life, you really have to sit with that question. Why are you letting them stay? A queen removes herself from bad situations. A queen removes herself from bad people who are not respecting her, who are not valuing her and treating her like a queen, like a high value woman. So it's more of looking at how are you not setting boundaries with yourself and how are you allowing people to take advantage of you to continue to hope that they will change when likely they will never change. A man has never changed for a woman wanting him to change. He only changes for himself. And if he's not being that man for you, ultimately you have to be willing to be the woman for yourself that's willing to move on so that a high quality man, masculine man, can come into the picture and take care of you and give you the love and care that you deserve. And that starts with believing that you deserve that.
Don't do nice things and try to cash them in later. That's manipulation. Like, I let you buy that Xbox controller, or I cleaned the house last night. The least you could do is blank. Like, don't do that, because they couldn't consent to that. They didn't know it was a trade. They didn't know the nice thing you were doing was an exchange for something in the future. You know, it might feel scary to ask for what we need without leverage, but it's not honest. And if it's not honest, it's not loving.
We've seen this often in relationships, even with something as basic as saying, I love you. Have you caught yourself saying, I love you to someone else, hoping that they would say, I love you back? Because these small, subtle ways that you may be attached to the outcome that you're giving, but you're actually trying to get, you're trying to control, you're trying to lead them in a specific way. Again, that is coming from masculine energy. That is you trying to lead, guide, control the relationship and putting them into the feminine of having to consent or having to submit to your leadership, or you're guilting them, or you're pressuring them into giving you what you want without them naturally being inspired to want to give that to you from your feminine vulnerability of being willing to ask for what you desire in the right way, ask for help, ask for support, and do it in a way that's respectful, that's feminine, that's honoring, that they want to give it to you, that they want to step up, and so that it's fair and honest, coming from a place of true love that is not grasping, that is not trying to control, that is not trying to derive an outcome from him.
Date someone who wants you.
Not my type.
The famous Groucho Marx quote, I never want to be part of a club that would accept me as a member. Do you catch yourself doing this in your relationships or in your dating where you find that you're constantly attracting people who do not want you? Why is that? Why are you only being interested and attracted generally to people who are not valuing you as much, who are not wanting you? They are pulling away, they are indifferent, they are not making you a priority, they're making you an option. Often this is stemming from the root of you not valuing yourself. You not believing that you are deserving of a high value man valuing you equally as the queen, that he wants to have you in his life, that he's pursuing you, because it brings up worthiness issues of, do I really deserve that? Am I good enough? What if he rejects me? That's going to be very painful if I get him in my life and then it doesn't work out. So start looking at these inner beliefs that you might have, these things that have caused you to attract a certain type of person or to be drawn to a certain type of person. Attraction anxiety can be part of that, where you're feeling attraction to someone, but it's actually because your anxiety is up and you're uncertain about if they want you or not. Look out for these patterns because they can cause many issues in your love life and can lead ultimately to not ever having a really deeply fulfilling relationship.
I'm going to tell you something real quick. If you're wondering whether he likes you or not, this is very simple. If you are his dream girl, he's not going to talk about going 50-50 with you. If you are his dream girl, he's not going to talk about going 50-50 with you. He's not going to try and split hairs. He's not going to ask what you bring to the table, top the table, under the table, side of the table. He's not going to ask any of that. He already sees your value because you are his dream girl. You've ticked all the boxes and he's like, oh my God, what do I do to get her, to impress her, to be with her? He's just going to be wanting to do for you. That's just the formula, and that's the best way it works. If he's asking you all that questions, he's compromised in his head and he's wondering what you can do for him in exchange for his compromise.
Imagine if you were the highest value woman in the world, if you were his celebrity crush. Would your man be treating you like someone to split the bill with? Someone to be an option and not a priority? Someone to only be investing the minimal to keep you around, to keep you interested, maybe just a friends with benefits? Would he be doing those things if he really saw you as a super high value woman, his queen? So you have to look at this and you have to use men as a mirror to see, why am I attracting this behavior? If a man's not valuing you, it's either for two reasons. If he's not treating you the way you want, it's for two reasons. It's either because he doesn't see you as high value or because he doesn't feel the masculine-feminine polarity. You need to work on both, because ultimately what every high-quality man wants is he wants a high-value feminine woman receiving his leadership and devotion and care. And if you're not being high value, meaning you're feeling that you deserve to have that in your life, that you are the queen, that you're worth being cared for, taken care of, provided for, having your problems solved, your needs met by him. And if you're not being in your feminine, meaning allowing him to do those things, trusting him, respecting him, honoring him, appreciating him, then that is why you will never attract that level of devotion from a high quality man. So we need to work on those things, on both of them, get them up, so that inevitably you're only attracting that level of high value masculine energy from men and from the man that you are interested in.
I had a friend tell me that a man told her that his mom or something told him that he was a disappointment. Later down the line, she's kept that in the back of her head. Months and months later, they get into an argument, and she's like, and that's why you're a disappointment.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
And I was like,
Lord. Yeah, you see, that's crazy.
You took it too far.
Lord.
And I'm like, those
Lord.
are things that I see women do that I
Oh,
never
man.
see men do.
Yo.
Which is terrible.
Yo.
Like, we know how to hit you where it hurts. Oh, childish. That's vicious.
That's crazy.
That's vicious. That's childish. I told her that.
There's so many things here, but ultimately, viciousness, like she said, attacking, tearing down a man, disrespecting a man, is only going to end up either pushing him away, crushing his spirit, or having him become a shell of a man, or combating you. There's only really three options when this behavior comes into play. Again, he's fighting you, he's submitting and becoming a low-value shell of a man, or he is leaving, he's walking away and getting out of that situation. And so it's interesting to look at inside of you if you have any of these parts that secretly want to tear down a man, to attack him, to destroy him in some ways, rather than being the queen and being willing to communicate your feelings in a healthier way, being vulnerable, allowing him to fix his behavior, or if not, getting out of the situation. There's really no situation where it's going to benefit you long term to take down a man in this way, to destroy him, destroy his ego, to criticize, complain, because what it's doing is it's also training your system that is your relationship with men.
This is the number one mistake women do when it comes to men. They fall in love with his potential. They see what he can be. They don't look at what he is.
One thing that I've noticed the female brain is more susceptible than the male brain to is fantasy. Fantasizing about the possibility, who he can be, what he may give you down the line, what your relationship could be like. If only he would just see that I am his soulmate. If only he would just see all the things I've done for him. If only he would just come to realize, if only he would fix his issues, if only he would just get into a better situation. Whatever that if only just statement is for you, you have to let that go, because ultimately you have to look for, who is he now? What is he doing for you now? How is he treating you now? Is he showing care for your heart? And if he is not, then you have to get out of the fantasy land and imagine instead, would you be okay with that never changing? Would you be okay if he was the same man now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now? Nothing different. And if that's okay with you, then continue the relationship. If that's not okay with you, then you need to learn feminine communication, how to share your feelings and what your problems and desires are in an open, respectful way so that he can start to make those shifts. We recommend doing a 90-day challenge to actually give him space to start shifting. And if he doesn't, you may ultimately have to be willing to walk away so that you avoid getting into this fantasy trap of the breadcrumbs, just like Hansel and Gretel walking down the forest, sipping on these little breadcrumbs, hoping that one day it'll change. But all that'll actually happen is you end up getting lost in the forest. It gets dark, it gets scary, and eventually you want out anyways.